LSU is back on top of the rankings, and what exactly and what that means, I'll get into that, plus so much more on today's edition of Locked on LSU.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Well, thank you for making Locked on LSU your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Plus, we're on YouTube as well. Free and available on YouTube. So you can listen to the podcast on the go. You can also watch the podcast on YouTube. Just search Locked on LSU in the search bar. Hit that subscribe button, and you won't miss a second of your Locked on LSU content. My name is Caroline Fenton, and I am your host, as I am every day. Graduated from LSU. I've been covering LSU sports since 2016, and I'm now a sports talk radio host in Nashville, Tennessee. I've got a very, very exciting announcement on the podcast tomorrow. We'll get into that tomorrow. I also have a very exciting announcement about LSU and where they stand in the rankings, and we'll get into that. But first, I want to let you know that today's edition of Locked on LSU is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, LSU is at the top of the rankings in the transfer portal. LSU holds that number one spot in the 2023 transfer portal rankings. At number one with 75 points, 2 points behind them. And that second spot is Florida State. Auburn rounding out the top three with 71. And then Colorado and USC rounding out the top five. Seeing Colorado at 4, just considering how many, just the sheer volume of players, really talented players that have transferred to Colorado following in the footsteps of Coach Prime, kind of shocked me that Colorado was as low as 4. Colorado has 23 transfer portal commits. 23 transfer portal commits. I believe that's the second most in college football, only behind Arizona State that has 26. And Arizona State, of course, is going through a similar, time in its franchise, new coach, trying to ascend to the tops of college football yet again. But LSU is sitting at that top spot with its 11 commits in the 2023 transfer portal class. Now, remember, the transfer portal window is closed, so players cannot enter the transfer portal. However, players that already have entered the transfer portal still have time to find where they would like to commit. Now, if I'm that player, I'm probably trying to do that as soon as possible. You can get enrolled in the spring semester. So the clock's ticking there to go ahead and find your landing spot. But there are still several players out there who have entered the transfer portal who have not yet made decisions about where they will be in 2023. So these rankings are subject to change. Maybe if there's a 4 or 5 star out there that decides to go to an Auburn or a Colorado, or another player in the top 5 could kind of catapult them past LSU. Maybe LSU continues to solidify that spot as LSU continues to seek out players that have already entered the transfer portal. So the good news is you may only get more players in via the transfer portal. And also the good news is any players that are currently at LSU are at LSU until at least the spring, when that second transfer portal window opens up in April, May-ish, around spring practice. But where you are right now, where LSU is with this 2023 transfer portal class: Omar Spates, linebacker from Oregon State; Ovia Gufo, an edge rusher that's transferring into LSU from Texas via Notre Dame, spent 3 years with Brian Kelly at Notre Dame; J.K. Johnson, a cornerback from Ohio State, originally from St. Louis, Missouri, where he played in high school under Robert Steeples, LSU's cornerback coach; Jordan Jefferson, and no, not the one you're thinking of, a defensive lineman from West Virginia; Deuce Chestnut, a cornerback from Syracuse, one of the very few true freshman corners to play at Syracuse after he spent a few years in Syracuse. Aaron Anderson, originally from New Orleans, went to Edna Karr High School, was the top recruit coming out of Louisiana in the 2022 class, decided to go to Alabama after Coach O was fired, and is finding his way back home, back to LSU. Jalen Lee, a defensive lineman from Florida who comes to LSU with 2 years of eligibility left. Denver Harris, a corner who committed to A&M, and that super elite Super talented 2022 class. Didn't work out for Denver Harris at Texas A&M. He's finding his way to LSU. Parrish Shand, a defensive lineman from Arizona who comes into LSU with 2 years of eligibility. Braden Swinson, an edge rusher from Oregon, who also comes in with 2 years of eligibility. And then Zai Alexander coming in from Southeastern, a cornerback. So there is your 11 players in your, at least for now, your group, your transfer portal group. The only thing that will change is more players potentially coming in. So the only way that I could find that made sense to put context to this ranking is comparing it to last year, is comparing it to the 2022 transfer portal class. Because, I can all day do research on the 9 commits that Florida State has and compare their stats and compare their position groups to LSU's and really see how they stack up. But, in terms of production from your transfer portal class, in terms of impact that your transfer portal class can make, I mean, what better way to compare that than to what we already know, what already happened? So let's look at LSU's 2022 transfer portal class. It was the 3rd ranked transfer portal class in the country. USC with 20 commits. Again, Lincoln Riley bringing so many players with him as he exited Oklahoma, went to USC. And, you don't bring one of the top quarterbacks in the country and the Heisman Trophy winner this year and, not be recognized as one of the top transfer portal groups. That makes sense. Ole Miss at number 2 with 17 commits, good for 84 points, and really kind of a stark drop off there. LSU at number 3 with 16 commits, good for 72 points. So comparing that to this year, LSU is currently sitting at 75 points, and this is all put together by 247 Sports. This is their ranking system in terms of 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, the average ranking for the players that have committed in that class. Just their overall ranking of players coming in. So in 2021, LSU had 72. This year, 3 points more at 75, and also with that top ranking. So looking at the 2022 class, the 2022 transfer portal class, look how impactful LSU's class truly was. I mean, I'll start with the most obvious. Jayden Daniels transferred in from Arizona State. And I know that there are so many of you that despise Jayden Daniels for some reason, but at the end of the day, you got your starting quarterback through the transfer portal. You got the guy who accounted for almost 70% of your offense via the transfer portal. You found your 2-year starter, at least where it is right now. Jayden Daniels has been named the starter. I am of the belief that anything could change at any moment, but let's just go ahead and say your 2-year starter and Jayden Daniels, you pick up through the transfer portal, who's a 4-star in the transfer portal this past year. So you found your starting quarterback. You found almost an entire core of corners. Got Jarrett Bernard-Converse from Oklahoma State. Sevyn Banks, who was injured a majority of the season, but got him in from Ohio State, and you'll get contributions from him in 2023 as well. Mekhi Wing, a defensive line transfer from Missouri, who stepped up when you needed him absolute most when Maason Smith went down with an injury, was a really great player and also has emerged as one of the top leaders on the team. A kid that you got in through the transfer portal this past year. You got your starting punter and Jay Bramblett, who transferred from Notre Dame. You also got your starting long snapper and Slade Roy, 2 of the only bright spots on this truly just god-awful special teams unit so far this year. If you look at so many key pieces that LSU had, key contributors this past year that LSU picked up via the transfer portal, and you compare that to LSU's transfer portal class this year, I think that you should be really encouraged by that. That last year, you got starting defensive linemen, starting corners, your starting quarterback via the transfer portal. And this year, at least where it stands right now, at least per the rankings, you can expect more. Now, how much can we really expect? How much was it talent and how much was it development? And which is better? I want to get into that coming up next. Plus, who I think is going to be the most impactful transfer in this class. I want to get into that coming up next. But before we do that, I want to tell you about LinkedIn Jobs. It's one of the best tools, I think, for small businesses. Because for small businesses, or if you're a hiring manager, you know that in the new year, success in 2023 can all depend on the team members that you surround yourself with, the team members that you bring in. So check out LinkedIn Jobs for all of your hiring needs. They will match you with the qualified candidates way more efficiently by matching open roles with people who have the skills, values, and experiences to help you achieve your goals. So when I used LinkedIn Jobs, I was looking for someone to fill an open producer role at the radio station that I work for. It was the middle of football season. We need someone to come in and come in quickly and kind of catch on to things quickly so we wouldn't miss a beat in our busiest time of the year. And LinkedIn Jobs helped us attract great candidates that were qualified for our job with the targeting tools that they use. So they have 875 million member profiles that they'll put your post in front of, and only the most qualified candidates. LinkedIn Jobs makes it easy to screen and rate applicants based on your job qualifications, all on one platform. So get started in 2023 on the right foot. Achieve your quarter one goals and do it with the right people by using LinkedIn Jobs. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates that you want to talk to faster. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That is linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Well, thanks again for making Locked On LSU your first listen every day. Make sure you check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Everything that you need to know about college basketball all in one place. Plus, you can hear from big name experts, insiders, coaches, and players. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. So LSU, again, is ranked the number one transfer portal class in the country, above Auburn, above Florida State, 3 and 2 respectively. Went out of order there. Colorado at 4, USC at 5, SMU 6, UCLA 7, Ole Miss 8, Wisconsin 9, Michigan 10, rounding out the top 10 in transfer portal classes. And the way that it's ranked now, LSU, per the numbers, per the rankings, has a statistically better transfer portal class than they did last year, which can be very encouraging considering how much LSU got out of this transfer portal class in 2022. But I think the question remains, was that a product of talent, or was that a product of development? And I think all of us, we as LSU fans, should hope that it's development. Because that's no disrespect to any of the players that came in via the transfer portal and were really able to contribute a ton. Because I just rattled off so many players that contributed to LSU in leaps and bounds. Joe Fouché in the secondary, Jarrett Bernard Converse in the secondary, Mekhi Wingo on the defensive line, Jayden Daniels, your starting quarterback. So that's no slight to those players or the talent that I know that we all know that they have. We've seen it on the field. But I think for LSU football's sake, this team's sake, and really just the success of this team moving forward, we should hope that it's more so a product of the development rather than the talent. Because talent, you can catch lightning in a bottle. You can recruit the most talented players in the country. But sooner or later, those players are going to leave. We saw that in 2019 and the subsequent years after in 2020 and 2021. How much LSU truly struggled not having those key pieces and those key talented pieces. I mean, Joe Burrow and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase and all of the leaders on that team, they were the soul, the heart and soul and backbone of that 2019 team. Those players leave, you're left with the same coaches that you had in 2019, and then you saw the drop off there. So that was more a talent driven team rather than it was a development driven team. Why you want a development driven team and why you want your coaches to have or I guess I'm trying to figure out the right word to say here. Why you want the coaches to be more so culpable isn't the right word. Responsible, I guess, is more so the word responsible for the success of the transfer portal this past year is because you can mimic that success year over year. You can catch lightning in a bottle with talent, but that talent leaves. You get the right coaches in here that can develop these players that maybe didn't get the opportunities that they wanted and the places that they came from, that maybe found a better path to success at LSU, you better hope that those coaches can develop those players, because that's where you get the good teams over and over and over again. Of course, all of these players have talent. They wouldn't be playing at this level if they didn't have talent. But you have to have the coaching staff that knows how to, one, develop the talent, two, refine the talent, and three, do something with the talent and not letting that talent go to waste. We have a very small sample size with this coaching staff, albeit a very encouraging small sample size. It's a small sample size nonetheless. But if we continue to see these transfers and also recruits come in, any players that need development or any players that need to carve their way into a starting role or carve their way into this system, it's better for the team if that is due to the coaching staff, to a positive coaching staff that knows how to deal with this talent. I think that's pretty obvious. But another question that I want to answer is one that we got on a Mailbag Wednesday last year, and I kind of wanted, or last week rather, and I wanted to expand upon that. And of course, we do a Mailbag Wednesday every single week. If you have a question, feel free to comment it down below, tweet it in at Caroline Fenton 1 or at Locked on LSU. However you want to get those questions in, it is totally fine with me. But which player in the transfer portal do I think can be the most impactful? And I thought that was a very fair question, and I wanted to expand upon it here, because I think that that's a question that could be interpreted a few different ways. I think that that's a question that you could interpret it as, who do you think is the best player in this class? But I interpret it as, who can be most impactful, meaning who is coming in a position of need that can come in and compete right away for a starting spot, can start right away, mixed with experience, mixed with just sheer talent. And they're ranking within the transfer portal class. They're ranking compared to the rest of the transfer portal. So I've landed on two players I think in 2023 will be the most impactful players for LSU. And I want to get into that coming up next. All right, the two players that I think are going to be the most impactful for LSU in 2023. And this has nothing to do, and nothing bad to do about any players that I don't name here, but I look at the combination of position of need, how strong LSU was this past year, or how much they struggled this past year, sheer talent and experience. First and foremost, and this might be a little bit of a surprise, I think Aaron Anderson might be the most impactful transfer in this transfer portal class. I understand he hardly saw the field at Alabama, and that was a mix of buried on the depth chart. That was also a mix of injury, keeping him on the sidelines. But I look at how much LSU struggled mightily on special teams in 2022. I'm sure you all sick and tired of me talking about special teams, but it just drove me crazy every single week how much LSU really kicked itself in the butt and shot themselves in the foot. Use all the verbs and body parts that you want to talk about that special teams unit. It was awful. It was truly awful. And I do think it may have been partly due to the personnel and partly due to coaching. Because, some of the personnel, like Jack Bech wasn't dropping passes offensively, but Jack Bech couldn't catch a punt to save his life. So I think that bringing Aaron Anderson in here is, one, you're bringing in a Louisiana guy, which is important, which is a priority set by Brian Kelly and this entire coaching staff. Two, you're bringing in a guy that was the highest rated recruit in the state in 2022, a 5-star wide receiver coming out of New Orleans. And three, a guy that can help your special teams unit right away. He is a guy who's known for kick returns, a guy who has found the end zone on several a kick and punt return, a guy who is a certified gamer on special teams units. All of that combined, where he's from, given his background, given his talent, and given his experience on a unit that made LSU's job so much more difficult for themselves this past year, I think the impact that we may feel, and maybe it is simply just a Brian Polian mess and no amount of 5-star wide receivers who has proven himself in the special teams unit can fix. And if so, then we've got a bigger problem on our hands. But I think that since this unit struggled so mightily this past year, and you're bringing in a guy who is proven at that position in that skill, I think that is going to be invaluable. And then you add on top of course, the fact that he's going to be able to help you offensively. I don't know what the intention is with Aaron Anderson. I don't know if it's okay, let's have you contribute on special teams and then you can work your way into a starting receiver spot. I don't know if you're going to see him kind of in a slot role, like a wide receiver 3 kind of role, as you start to see, Malik Neighbors or a Kyron Lacey or some players that maybe have been in the building a little bit longer be your number 1 and number 2 guys, and Aaron Anderson is a little bit more of a rotational guy. Maybe he competes and can be your number 1 wide receiver. I don't know. But one thing that I know for certain is he can help you on special teams, which is what this team needs. And then, you know, the possibilities are limitless with him offensively. And I think that's exciting to see is the potential ceiling that Aaron Anderson can have working in this offensive scheme, but knowing for certain that you will get, or at least I feel for certain. I don't know for certain. I haven't talked to Brian Polian about who he intends to be as kick returner in 2023, but I feel like I feel confident in saying that he's going to be able to contribute to special teams right away. So I'll pick one from both sides of the ball. Offensively, I think your most impactful transfer is going to be Aaron Anderson. Defensively, and also on special teams. Defensively, I think that the most impactful transfer portal player is going to be Denver Harris. Now, I understand Denver Harris has baggage that he's coming into LSU from. I do believe and hope that with the right coaching staff and with the right environment, with the right team culture, that Denver Harris will find a good fit for himself. So, that to the side for a little bit. The other thing is he's just really freaking good. He's a 5-star in this transfer portal class, was a 5-star corner coming out of high school, was one of the most highly sought after players, period, in this transfer portal class and in the 2022 recruiting class. I mean, Denver Harris has, it has the reputation that he has for a reason. Denver Harris is going to be able to help this group that needs depth badly. This cornerback group is a group that needed depth, needed experience, just needed bodies, honestly, kind of finding itself in the same place that it was in 2022. It needed depth, it needed bodies, and it needed guys with remaining years of eligibility. So LSU didn't have to continue to go back to the transfer portal every single year. Denver Harris doesn't have a ton of college football experience, but I think that the upside and the prospect of Denver Harris, also given the lack of depth in that cornerback room, I think that he can come in and be impactful right away. So I'm looking at Denver Harris and I'm looking at Aaron Anderson. 2 relatively young guys who are coming in with 3 or 4 years of eligibility left. So that's helpful. You can continue to build your team around those 2 guys. They can continue to be foundations as you build your team in the future. They're 2 guys who are very, very, very highly rated, both out of high school and as they enter the transfer portal. And you're looking at 2 guys that can help you in 2 areas that need help and need it desperately. So I look at those 2. I think they absolutely can be the 2 most impactful. Now, if it's a Braden Swinson, if it's a Jalen Lee, guys that can fill in on the defensive line, if it's whoever it is, then great, wonderful. I just look at the needs of this team and the skill sets of those 2 players, and I think that those 2 things just match up perfectly. But that's going to do it for me today. Thank you for making Locked On LSU your first listen today. For your second listen, check out our brand new podcast, Locked On College Basketball. Experts Isaac Shade and Andy Patton bring you everything that you need to know on and off the court. They are the best. I love those guys. Plus, you can hear from big-name experts, coaches, and players throughout the basketball landscape. Locked On College Basketball, available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts.